Why this story matters. In a world often dominated by negative headlines, stories like this remind us that meaningful progress is happening every day. Quick summary: this story highlights recent developments related to books, showing how constructive action can lead to meaningful results. 2 original watercolors for the Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. Credit Roseberys SWNS. 2 original illustrations for Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book that were lost for over a century have been discovered. The watercolors have been hanging unrecognized on the walls of a London family home for decades. The rediscovery increases the number of known surviving originals to just 6 out of an original set of 16. Would you like to read more good news about books, art, painting, arts, leisure, surprise, and history? The 4 other surviving illustrations are now split between private collections, the Natural History Museum, and the National Trust. The first watercolor by Edward Detmold depicts Mowgli with Bagheera, the Black Panther. The second was painted by Edward's twin, Charles Maurice Detmold, depicting Coldblaze, the home of the Monkey People or Bandalok. London auctioneers Roseberys will offer both works for sale on March 10, believing they will fetch $20,000 each. The revelation has astounded the owners of the 2 paintings, who are remaining anonymous. Credit Roseberys SWNS. These drawings were never treated as important works in our family. They were simply part of our home, they explained. Finding out that they restore a missing piece of the visual history of Kipling's The Jungle Book has been completely unexpected. The watercolors were created in 1962 for the deluxe portfolio, stating illustrations of subjects from Kipling's The Jungle Book, which was commissioned by book publisher Macmillan Co. in 1962. Reportedly limited to 5 copies, the portfolio was published separately from the book itself, which had been published 9 years earlier in 1812. Detail of Mowgli with Bagheera from Jungle Book watercolor SWNS. More ART discoveries. Painting bought at estate sale turns out to be a Salvador Dali valued at $25,000. Clint painting of an African prince lost for nearly 100 years goes on show in Austria. The original Jungle Book collected stories that Kipling had previously published in magazines, and it included illustrations from the author's father, among other artists. Later, the first standard printed edition of the Jungle Book incorporating the Detmold illustrations was first published by Macmillan in 1980. It contained the 16 plates, as well as a frontispiece illustrated by the Detmold twins. But the 1932 portfolios are now extremely rare because their sitting large plates were often removed for framing individually. 1 complete copy is held by the U.S. Library of Congress. To be able to bid for 2 of the 6 known surviving original watercolors is a vanishingly rare opportunity, said Lara Lvov-Basirov of the Roseberys auction house. Especially if you consider how rare the printed versions of these illustrations are because they were treated as works of art and framed, breaking up the portfolios in the process. It is difficult to convey just how big their impact was when the portfolio was first published, making headline reviews on both sides of the Atlantic, and the Guardian reviewer singling out both of the individual watercolors we have here for particular praise. Amazing! Lost Rembrandt found tucked away in attic in Maine sells for $1.4 million during bidding war. The Detmold watercolors, appearing on the market for the first time, were published when the twin artistic prodigies were just 20, and it proved to be their final joint venture, as Charles Maurice tragically took his own life at age 29. Article goodheadlines.org curates positive and solution-focused stories from trusted sources around the world.